Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you're watching Save Today with Heather J. Thank you for being here today. I am still somebody who has spent her entire adult life living paycheck to paycheck. That has not changed. This channel, because of this channel, because of you guys, I am headed finally for what feels like the first time ever. I'm headed in the right direction. Um, I'm beginning to get to the point where when things come up, I'm able to adapt and deal with them. And that is a direct result of the constant consistency of checking in that this channel has brought to my budget and brought to my life. So I thank you guys for being here with me, for encouraging me, and just being on this journey with me. Thank you. Today's video is going to be, I have changed how I'm doing my videos to combine several small videos into one larger video, because that is the thing that makes more sense to me. In all honesty, that is how these things happen in my real life as I'm sitting down to do this, and that's what makes sense to do a video on rather than breaking that up. I may adjust that again going forward. Today, as you can see, I don't have any fabric in my background. I'm only going to have one little piece of fabric in my budgeting. I am going super bare bones and quick in today's video. It's been a very busy few weeks for me, and I need to, at this point, I'm about 5 days behind when I originally wanted to film this and about 3 days behind when I thought I would have released this. So I really just need to get this out and get it to you guys and move on with the next step, so that I don't end up back in a situation where I'm just not filming again because things have gotten a little bit difficult. I need to find a way, even when things get chaotic, to make this work. So that's where I'm at today. We're going to go super bare bones. And let's get into it. What am I going to do today? We're going to retouch on what my paycheck number one estimate was. We're going to take a look at what flexible spending I did, come back and see how that impacted the budget, and then we're going to go take a look and see what I have estimated for the next paycheck and see what that looks like. Because all of those things for me happen all at once, and it doesn't make sense to break that up into several different videos. So for me, when I set up my budget for the month, I get paid every other Friday, and my rent is due on the first of the month. So whatever paycheck has the first of the month in it, that's the paycheck that starts my month. So for me, my month of March starts the 23rd of February and goes until the 21st of March, because that paycheck that is the 23rd to March 7th, that's where my rent is due. That's paycheck number one in the month for me. And I know that throws the scheduling off, and eventually it is my hope, and I can see now how that might be possible for me to make it happen, where I can begin to have 1 month ahead of rent set into a savings so that my first can actually be the first, regardless of where my paychecks fall, as far as rent goes. So we'll see how this next year goes and if I can get into that, but I'm not there yet. So for me, this paycheck we're talking about is going to be paycheck number one for March, which is February 23rd to March 7th. And we're going to take a look first at what my estimate was. And so when I set up my, I have my income, my fixed expenses, flexible spending, and then we see how we finished out what that ending balance ends up being. When I set up my paycheck, I take my wages times my hours times the amount of paychecks in that cycle, and I take out 25%. So $20.85 an hour, 38 hours, 2 weeks, 25% leaves me with $1,188.45. I do have a line item for other in case something shows up. Birthday money I want to include in my budget, or taxes, or a refund, anything like that. Sometimes I know when they're coming and sometimes I don't. And so I always wanted to include this line for others so that there is a placeholder for that should something come up. So my estimate for wages was $1,188.45 for this pay period. I did end up receiving actually $1,599.63, which was $411.18 more than I had estimated. This is because I'm currently padding my checks with extra paid time off. In my company, that is an option for me. Obviously, ideally, they want you to actually take the time off. But if you don't take the time off when your anniversary date comes up, you lose all but a certain amount of it, all but I believe 40 hours. And last year, that's what happened. Without realizing it, because I wasn't paying attention, I did lose a significant amount of what would have been paid time off options for me because I didn't want to use it until I knew I was going to need it. I didn't want to use it and have it be gone just to hang out at home. And then I didn't use it, and then it was gone anyway. So this year, because my anniversary date is fast closing up on us, I want to make sure that I use it so I don't lose it. But I don't necessarily need to take time off yet. So I'm able to use that to pad my check. And I'm then going to be putting that into savings to help me purchase the large ticket items that I am looking to purchase. So that's what that $411.18 is. That's the extra padding. I did not get anything other in my income, so no difference there. So my total income was $1,599.63 for an overage of $411.18. The next thing we go into is my fixed expenses, and I just had my rent and 2 doctor's appointments that were going to fall within this pay period that should have had a $25 copay. And then this line item for other in case something comes up. I wanted to have a place to put it so that I could fit it in there. So my rent had gone up by $25. So it went from $853 to $878. But when it came out and was withdrawn, it was only the $853. I kind of panicked and I thought that maybe the billing company had screwed up, and I called right away because I did not want to get penalized for not paying that. But I had made an error. The date wasn't until the 1st of April that that's going up. So they gave me like a 6-week window to let me know that my rent was coming up, not a 2-week window. And so that did save me that $25. Now that will be what the rent is in April, but thankfully I had a little bit more time to adjust than I had initially realized. And then the 2 doctor's appointments I had, only one of them charged me that $25 copay. The other one I did not have to pay at time of service. That does mean I can expect a fairly large bill as a copay later on, but that hasn't shown up yet. So that did give me $25 back into my budget. And then for other, I did have one purchase for $278.96, which of course is over budget by $278. This is over here. This is a plane ticket that I purchased so that I can go visit my daughter out of state. I haven't seen her in over a year at this point now, and I need to go back and visit. It is my hope that while I'm there, I will be able to have enough money set aside from this that I could then purchase the retired U-Haul box truck that I would like to purchase. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I really did need to set a date and just buy the tickets. They were only going to get more and more expensive as we got closer and closer, and I really need to go visit my daughter and those grandkids because I miss them terribly. So that's what that was, and that is sort of related to the savings I'm going to be doing anyway, because I'm wanting to purchase that out of state where I don't have to worry about the salts from the winter roads destroying the metal on the vehicle. So that's what that is. So my estimate was $1,156.96. Oh no, that's actually what I spent, which was $228.96 more than I had estimated. Then we're going to go into flexible spending. Oh, here's where I'm going to stop this actually, because I don't want to go over this till I go over the other. So we're going to flip the page. Well, that was graceful, Heather. So I have week 1 and week 2 flexible spending here, and then I have what the totals were over here. Gosh, this is such a polished video, Heather. I'm so glad you decided to do this today. All right, first transaction was on the 23rd in the groceries category at Aldi's. I spent $9.82. Also on the 23rd, I went and filled up my gas tank for $15.94. On the 23rd, I went to Walmart and I did kind of my bulk major shopping. I spent $187.65. On the 26th, I honestly think this was on the 23rd, but it didn't clear my bank until the 26th, but maybe not. I went to the Green Bee, which is a local kind of like refill station, my hippie shop, and I refilled some Dawn dish soap from there, and then I got some tooth tabs. I don't use the toothbrush. I use those little tabs, and you chew on them, and then you brush your teeth with that instead of having the plastic in the toothpaste. So that's what that is. On the 26th, in the groceries category, I went to the Refinery Coffee Roaster, and I bought a pound of coffee beans for $13.50. I am trying to search out and find the yummy coffee that my boss got me for Christmas. I'm not actually somebody who enjoys coffee, and I really enjoyed the coffee I was given as a Christmas present, and it was from there. So I'm going each paycheck to try and figure out which one that was. So on the 26th, in the groceries category, I went to Kroger and I spent a whopping $3.56. On the 26th, in the groceries category, back at Walmart, $25.28. On the 28th, in the groceries category at Aldi, I spent $7.06. In the groceries category on the 28th at Kroger, I spent $9.65. So these two, where it's two on the same day, all these would have been while I was on lunch at work. And then the Kroger would have been on my way home after work to get something either for dinner that night or for the next day. And that was all that I spent in week 1. And so as we go and look at my check-in here, in the groceries category, I did spend $284.37, which leaves me with $25.63 in that category. In the dining out, I did not spend anything, which is great. I didn't budget anything. In transportation, I spent $15.94, leaves me with $24.06. Art and miscellaneous, I didn't spend anything, so I spent $331.31 in my flexible spending for this week, which leaves me $49.69 for the next week. So then let's take a look at week number 2's flexible spending. On the 1st, in the groceries category at Walmart, I spent $29.96. On the 2nd, in the groceries category at Kroger, I spent $4.46. On the 3rd, in the groceries category at Aldi's, I spent $5.32. Also on the 3rd, in the groceries category at Kroger, I spent $8.98. And on the 6th, in the groceries category at Kroger, I spent $5.45. And that was it for weeks 2 flexible spending, all groceries. Obviously, I didn't have anything much left to spend, and I was very careful about what I did spend. I will begin to have to pay attention to what these are and see if I can't either budget better when I'm doing my first shopping trip or maybe do a second, I don't know, whatever. That's all groceries. That's what it is. So here we look at my groceries category. I actually spent $54.17, which left me having overspent in that category by $28.54. And then I didn't spend anything in any of the other categories, so that just leaves that as it is. That does mean I spent $54.17, which was $4.48 that I had left in my flexible spending category. And now let's go back to what this is here. In my flexible spending, I estimated $310. I spent $338.54, which was $28.54 more than I thought it was going to be. No dining out, no difference. In transportation, I spent $15.94, which was $24.06 less than I thought I was going to spend. No art, no miscellaneous. That does mean I finished out having overspent by $4.48 in flexible spending. My ending balance, all of these numbers just carried down. Income, $1599.63, over $411.18. Fixed expenses, $1156.96, overspent by $228.96. Flexible spending, $354.48, overspent by $448. That does mean I finished out the week, the paycheck, with $88.19 left, which was $177.74 more than I thought, because when I initially set up this budget, it was going to be in the red by $89.55. So this was obviously only possible because I got this $411.18, and I got this extra $411.18 because I was planning to put money in savings, and this is $88 is all that went into savings. I am aware of that, and this plane ticket was very much a conscious choice that is truly related to what I'm saving the money for. So then the only other overspending was this flexible spending, that last $4.48. Paycheck number one is always very hard for me because the rent is so large in comparison to what I'm bringing in. And so that is part of why I am beginning to consider getting savings and set ahead for rent. But right now that's not where I'm at. So I just have to budget. In paycheck number two, I have to keep enough to cover the following month's paycheck number one. So let's go over here and see what I think this next 2 weeks is going to be like. We already went over this in my last video, so if you watch that one, this is just going to be a refresher for you, anybody who's interested. So let's just go over these numbers really quick and see what that looks like. Additionally, when I went back and rewatched that video as I was reloading that and making sure that went out okay, the last one that I had put out, I realized that I transposed some numbers. When I set up my budget, 2 of my bills, when I wrote it out on the calendar, I wrote correctly. But then as I was speaking and writing it out on both my monthly estimate and on paycheck number 2 estimate, I had transposed some of those numbers, which changed what my estimates were. And we'll go over that as I come to them, because you'll see some white out here and here as I had to correct that. So once again, my wages, $20.85, 38 hours, 2 weeks, 25% taxes and insurance leaves me with $1,188.45. I do have $35 in this other category. Sometime in the month of March, I should, and I put that in air quotes because I don't, it'll show up when it shows up, but I should be getting back $35. 6 months ago, when I was paying for my toll roads in the previous state I lived in, I had to set up an account with them, and then after 6 months, they would give me back the amount of money I used to set up my account if I had not used it. And obviously I haven't been in that state. So I'll get that $35 back once they clear out whatever that 6 months is. So it should be in March, might potentially be in April. And then again, because my month is not the 1st to the 30th, it might be that it still is technically truly the calendar month of March, but might come out in my actual April. So we'll see when that comes out, but that's what that is expected to be. That should be coming. It should be coming, which does give me my estimate of $1,223.45. And then my fixed expenses is basically every other thing except for my rent. So my utilities, I estimated at $225. It's a little bit less than I estimated last month, but we are getting out of winter and beginning to head into the warmer months. And I believe I will be using less power this cycle than I did the last. Then I have my phone bill, and this is one of the numbers I had transposed. My phone bill is $194.45, and I had transposed that to $149.45. So I had to correct that math, which made some difference here. My student loans, $69.74. I have one subscription for $10.82. This should be the last month that comes out. And I have one doctor's appointment scheduled in this 2-week time frame at the time I set up my estimate for $25. And then I have my hospital bill set up in a payment arrangements that I owe $38.80. This was the other one. I had transposed the number. I wrote $38.80 in my calendar. That is what the bill is. But then when I did month setup and paycheck number 2 setup, I transposed it to 3830. It is 3880, not 3830. So that also had an impact down here. And then I'm going to be paying my federal taxes during this pay cycle. And that is $53 that I owe to the federal government for my taxes. And then again, I do have this line item for zero in case something comes up that I was not expecting, which does leave my estimate of fixed expenses at $616.85. We'll see how that carries out. This utilities could be different, and the doctor's bills could be different. I might potentially put more on my student loans. I'd like to be able to start doing that. So far, I haven't been able to find that in there, but we'll see. Flexible spending is groceries, dining out, transportation, art, and miscellaneous. Again, these are the areas where I have the most control over. I can impact how much or how little I spend, both on what I purchase and where I purchase it from. In my groceries, I have given myself an estimate of $350. I may have to increase my estimate in paycheck number 2 to help build a greater buffer so that I can spend less in the following paycheck month number 1 for the next month, but we'll see. Right now it's $350. Dining out, it is my hope to not have to spend anything in dining out, so there's zero estimate in that budget. Transportation, I have $40 in this pay period for that. Art, I have $30. Miscellaneous, $60. I'd like to be able to, there's things I'd like to purchase that are going to be about that. Which does mean my flexible spending estimate is $450 for this pay period. So as we carry out the ending balance, it does look like my income is expected to be $1,223.45. It looks like my fixed expenses will be $616.85 and my flexible expenses will be $450, which, if everything goes well, would leave me with $156.60, some of which will go into savings and some of which can buffer to cover the rent for paycheck number 1 in April. So we will see how that goes as we close out that. But I had to correct those two, the phone, and I had to correct the hospital bill in my transposing those numbers. When I first set this up, I was going to have $205 that might go into savings, which was really exciting. And even $156 is still exciting, but definitely significantly less because of the errors. I am still working on getting my phone switched over. Ultimately, the thing I want to do is to get out of T-Mobile and to get into Mint, and that will mean that I'm closing out the second phone line, which is already, that second phone already is a different bill, so that can go away. It does mean closing out the tablet, and then I would be taking the internet off of my phone bill, and that would go be my son's. The whole reason for that, number one, is obviously that's an incredibly expensive phone bill, but we are at the point where it's time to begin separating our bills because I will be moving on and no longer living with him, and that is the last thing that we need to separate out, and then I can go as cheaply as I can so that I can make my next step a little bit easier for me. And so that is part of why that big focus is happening. But that isn't something where I'm just going to 1 month be done. I'm going to, partly because I need the extra money in the budget to pay off that second phone, because there's still payments due on that, and pay off that tablet. There's still payments due on that. So that's part of that. No point in switching out the internet until I really am ready to go. So we'll see. Will that happen in April? Will that be May, June, or July? I don't know, but that's the focus and that's the why. And that is the end of my budget video. As far as my crafts go, I do plan to bring those back in. They're just not going to be here yet. I have a lot of things happening outside of my budget that are taking up a lot of my time. When I set up this month's estimate, I had 3 doctor's appointments within this time frame. What has happened so far is I've now had 5 doctor's appointments, and 2 plumbing and 2 pest control appointments. So I have been very, my time has not been my own. My free time has not been my own. So things that would normally be happening aren't. And I'm got a lot going on. So that's where I'm at. That's what's going on. I'm sorry I am not yet a professional at this. I hope to get there at some point. I'd like to have things be a little bit more smooth and a little bit more polished, but they're not. I wonder, do people write scripts when they do these budgeting videos? Should I write it out and make that be a lot smoother? I feel like that loses a lot of my personality to do so. But anyway, I thank you guys for being here with me, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing today. Please have fun. Bye-bye now.